Good evening, all. For people that don't know me, I'm Adam Shelton, the mental health warrior, and together we're here to stop the stigma of poor mental health. I'm joined by the brilliant Alan Stevens. How are you, Sir Alan?
Pretty good, thanks.
Good, good. And you're keeping well for Suicide Prevention Day. As you say, are you okay day?
Yeah, it was a big day here yesterday with the Are You Okay? And it's something that you need to be asking each other, not just on that day, but every day.
Absolutely. And also, I'm joined by the Sunday session, well, do I say ambassador, CEO? I have not got a clue, but he gave me some brilliant comfy socks. They're not like British socks whatsoever. Hello, Scott. You okay?
Yeah, good morning, Adam. How are you? Good morning for me, evening for you. Yeah, I'm fantastic, thank you. And like Alan, we've just finished up with Are You OK Day, and look, there's plenty of opportunities for us to reach out to each other and actually say, "Are you okay?" It's just important that we take them, because
Absolutely.
quite often we're in our own heads, and we actually need to make sure that we do check on other people regularly because we're important, and so are they.
Yeah, just three simple words, powerful words, could change someone's life, mindset for the better.
Well, on that, if it's all right with you, I know it's early, I'm actually going to share something that Alan's the founder of the Campfire Project, and I do a little bit on there. And there's just some of the most amazing people inside the Campfire Project. And I really want to share something that somebody put up yesterday about Are You OK Day, because this person, Helen Glover, is just amazing. And she was talking about Are You OK Day and how many people actually answer it honestly. How many people actually say, you know what, I'm actually not okay today. Nothing will change. And look, Are You OK is a fantastic opportunity. It's a great way to get a conversation started. If someone gives you the opportunity to be honest about things, it's time to actually be honest about them. If someone's taking the effort to ask you if you're okay, tell them the truth.
Yeah.
So, and
I agree 100%. I agree.
Yeah. So that's our responsibility, which we need to take. And I'm sorry to go straight into that, but I think it is so important because as a society, we're growing, we're evolving emotionally. But it's time to own our own story and actually share it. So, yeah, sorry, thank you. How am I? I'm great.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, we've all got a story. We all have.
Yes.
And I just want to share that I can't believe it's been we're in September now. It's been 17 months since I actually attempted suicide myself.
Mm-hmm.
And look how much I've grown just because of the campfire.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, all I say is thanks for that.
Oh, you're welcome. That's what we're here for. Here for each other.
We are, and I can't recommend it enough. And I know I do get hounded a lot with people wanting to come on shows, and yeah, I think the big step, confidence boost, was actually having that one-to-one chat. More the second time with you, Alan, rather than the first. I know I was nervous as hell the first time, but yeah, I feel So that's where it comes to Scott. What was your experience like for the very first time going on the campfire?
Well, the Campfire Project's been huge for me. There's been a lot of personal growth as well as business growth inside the campfire, because the opportunities come around because you're working with like-minded people who actually want to make a difference in the world. But when I first started with the campfire, Alan and I may not have exactly been two peas in a pod when we first met.
That's brilliant.
It's I met Alan at a public speaking course where I wanted to grow myself, so I was trying to educate myself so that I could grow, because I felt that in some part of my life I'm going to need to do a lot more public speaking, because want to do something, and I want to be a part of something more than just the day-to-days. So here I am, 2 days into a course, public speaking, where I didn't feel that I fitted in at all. I'm just an average Joe. I've had a very different upbringing, and I'm not an educated person, and inside this room is a lot of educated people. And so day 2, I actually wanted to go home as part of a 6-day course, and I'm like, I just don't belong here. So day 3, I come up with Alan. I'm like, go to do my presentation, and I've got Alan there, who I didn't know was a profiler at the time. Thank God I didn't know I was a profiler. And I'm standing there looking at him, and I'm like, I just said to him, I don't think I've got anything you actually want to hear. And he went dead quiet. He made me sweat bullets. Anyway, I got on with my presentation, and I got it done. And then we ran out of time, so we couldn't even critique it. So I was, not only did I not think that he wanted to hear what I had to say, then I give my best, and he has to sit there in silence because we ran out of time. Anyway, after 5 minutes of running through that process, Alan's expression was,
wow! See, that's the thing that, you know, everybody who's listening to this, I guarantee most of them will probably think, I don't have a story. You know, what's my life compared to other people? Although they'll rate themselves against the trials and tribulations of other people who've gone through, like they may see somebody's been through some really tough times and think, well, I don't really have a story, but they're still suffering in their own thoughts.
Yeah.
Everyone's story is important. It's their story, so it's important. It's important to them. And as a community, it's important to the rest of us to hear that story as well. And so I deliberately made it difficult for Scott. And in that moment, in all of his trepidation and everything else, what he didn't realise was I could see the quality that was there. And so it didn't take much then to get him into the Campfire Project, did the one-on-one with him, and look at him now. You know, he's virtually, I'm no longer in the driver's seat of the bus. I've gotten out of the driver's seat and I'm sitting in the passenger seat, which is quite a cool place to be. It's comfortable. And I can look more at the scenery. You can't look at the scenery while you're driving. And that's what's happening with so many other people coming in. They're taking up that role and they're stepping up. And they're finding what's inside of them they didn't realise it was there before. And as a community, that's what we do for each other.
We do. We do. And
I'm not going to let that finish there. I'm sorry, because that's exactly what it is. It's a community of people working together to create a unity of our society, of understanding each other. And in today's society, we're far too quick to just listen to the quick details and then move on. And in the Campfire, every conversation goes for an hour. I host the Thursday Night Lives, and I adore it. But they always start a little bit, getting to know each other. By the end of the conversation, yesterday was Are You OK Day. At the end of the conversation, we were actually talking about suicide. Not because, that's where it was heading, but it is about that. But it's because we talk about every subject. Suicide consistently here is not an option. Well, it is an option. Otherwise, it wouldn't be one. So we need to talk about it, and we need to take it away from, taboo subjects. They don't exist anymore. They're all opportunities to talk. Inside the Campfire, we've had some of the most amazing conversations. Does size matter? Talking about penis size. We talked about menstruation so that we could learn more about menstruation. And I'm so grateful and lucky that it's a safe place that we can talk about this. Today, we're talking about suicide prevention. It's literally about that. It's about having a safe place to talk, because shame or guilt, they hold us in a holding pattern, and that's where we go into our head. And we don't feel like we can find any answers. The answers are actually out there. You just got to have the right support network to get there.
That's it. And by talking about those different subjects, we realise that they're part of life. It's like menstruation, for instance. The Campfire, first of all, started as a men's group, even though I had women in there from day one. And there were two reasons for the women sitting in the background to start with. First, it was and the women being there in the first place, was so that they could hear what men could speak like when they felt safe to do so. And at the same time, it was a test to see if the women would respect the men, which they did. When we did the panel discussions, that's when I was getting a lot of private messages from the women just saying, we've never heard men talk like this before, we love it, and we want to be part of it. So we had these conversations where we can talk about any subject with respect towards each other. There hasn't, and the thing I love is in over 180 one-on-one interviews now, and it's been 80 panel discussions that I've done, plus the ones that like people like Angela Heiser have stepped up, young Thomas Graham's now stepped up, young Aboriginal gentleman here in Newcastle. He's now stepped up and doing one-on-ones. Angela's run a panel discussion. Heather's coming in and starting to do work in there as well, or Helen, I should say. And there's so many people that are stepping up, and it's really becoming that community, which is what I love. And we're talking about all those subjects, like menstruation, for instance. Fathers need to know about that. And if you're a guy, well, your partner's going to be going through that. So you need to know, if we're going to be there for our partner, we need to understand that stuff. So all these subjects, take the taboo off them. And it's like suicide. The more we can talk about that, the more we get used to talking about it, and the stigma then disappears through that activity. We can say we need to remove the stigma, and a lot of us will be saying that, but there'll be a lot of other people who are still got that stigma. It's only when the conversations become every day that the stigma will disappear.
Absolutely, and this is why obviously I've got a page on Facebook. Obviously at the minute it's called Adam Shelton, the Mental Health Warrior, but I'm actually in the process of changing that, because I thought, you know what, instead of wanting to promote myself, which is a good thing, because obviously I shared my experience, I thought, you know what better than changing it to the Warriors of Mental Health, because that's what it is, because we are all warriors at the end of the day.
That's making it inclusive for everybody who comes into your group, because that's the title that they take on. And then they when they've got that, put that mantle on, then they start to live that. And it's when we step into those roles. Like, as Scott was talking about when we first met, he had that belief about himself. So I just orchestrated it so that we really tested it and got him thinking about it. And, what was inside the man's come out. To the fact that I'm really appreciative that we actually had that meeting. I think going there for 6 days, both of us there to learn, because I'm always trying to improve my skills, because the most important thing you'll ever learn is the next thing you learn after you think you know everything. So while I was there with Scott and we're in that role, I was able to see the measure of him and realise that here's a guy who's got so much inside of him. And if we are there for each other, then my job was to set the scene up so that he could then realise that. And sometimes you've got to take somebody down first to give them a bit more of an incentive to want to get out of that place.
I had to go and change my bloody clothes after that, Alan. I was just sweating that many bullets.
And you might have noticed the look on my face underneath that still look, was I was just chuckling to myself all the way through.
I couldn't focus because you had me on out on a limb, and anyway. But I think this is something that's super important, right? Because growth is important, right? And quite often you hold yourself back when you actually need to be around people who can see you for who you are, because the thoughts in your own head are actually always going to be worse than what the reality is, and a lot of people, and Adam, you've attempted suicide, it's the thoughts in your head got you. What other people saw wasn't the reality that was going on in your head. True?
That's true. That is true.
So that's the importance of having a good network around you. Like Lance Piccioni is a part of the Campfire Project, and he runs the Love Me, Love You Foundation. And I love the guy because he talks consistently about having the 5 people, right, in your life that are your go-to people, that, you identify them, because it's so damn important. I'd like to go one further and say, not only identify those people, identify what they're for. Once a year, sit down and work through your 5 people. Make sure that they're in alignment with where you are at the minute, because, if it's one of the things that Alan and I talked about, which just changed me forever. When I realised I'm the average of the 5 people I spend the most time with, I changed the 5 people I spent the most time with, because I needed to grow, you know, and growth is a beautiful thing, you know. Growth gets you out of your head, whether it be reading a book, learning new skills. But I truly encourage people to not just learn to grow from books, because when you go to seminars and bits and pieces, you can feel the emotion. The emotional attachment you have to a situation creates better learning. Also gives you a better understanding of other people, and teaches you how to engage better. Your thoughts on that, Alan?
Well, and absolutely true. It's, you know, you got to have the right people around you. Make sure that you know what their roles are in your life. There's so many things that we do in business, in sales and things like that. As they say, you know, you don't want to be the smartest person in the room. But everybody wants to be the smartest person, because we're all judging ourselves all the time. We're our worst critics. We have our reality, and everybody else has a reality. And guess what? No two realities are the same, which therefore means that every reality is really an illusion. And so I say what the best thing is, create the best illusion for yourself and turn it into your reality. And you do that by having the right people around you. As they say in business, you are the sum of the 5 closest friends that you have, and that wherever they're at on average, that's where you will be. Well, it's the same thing as Scott's saying here. Find the best people to have around you. Work out what their role is in your life, and also at the same time, work out what your role is in their life as well. See, I was pretty lucky when I went through initiation with the Aboriginal group over here. My son followed me through. And when I took him out there, they said, okay, what do you want us to do? I said, well, my job was to get my son here, but your job is to turn him into a man. You take him through that process, because, you know, mother's role is to nurture the child up to a certain age, and then the father takes over and he gets him prepared, ready for the tough love he's going to get from the other men. Because if dad raises his son and he's the only influence, then his son is a clone of him, and his son doesn't really find his own true value until dad falls off the perch. And so for him, your son, to have the true worth from that moment on, while you're still around, he takes a bit from all the other men and creates his own identity. And they said to me, well, what's your job? And I said, well, you've got sons. And they said, you've got it. So that's when I realized that I'd gone to them for answers that I needed in my life. Now my son was following me through, but they also looked at me as having a value to them as well. And that's where the reciprocity, the love, humility, and respect, the 3 pillars of that culture. And it was not just respecting the people above you, but them also respecting you as well. Yeah. And that's when we get together, the elders and everything else, respect all the young ones that are coming through. We guide them and all the rest of it through all the different levels, but we also have that respect for each other. So remember that when you do search for those 5 closest people you're going to have around you, also keep looking at the fact that you're going to be part of their 5 people, and you're also part of that average. So therefore, think about, well, what can I do for them as well? I've visited my granddaughter, or one of my sons in Canberra. When I was down there, my granddaughter, we sit around the table, and everyone's very quiet at dinner time. So I just asked them, what are you grateful for? Well, I went back down a few months later, and I realised as soon as I sat down, she's asking, she's been doing it every night since I was down there, asking everybody, what were you grateful for today? Then recently I heard someone say, they actually asked the people around the table, who did you help today? They didn't go straight to the gratitude. They went, who did you help today? And that's something that all of us can think about. If we are able to help other people, guess what? When you help other people, how do you feel? It's one of the quickest ways to change your state. If you're feeling down and everything else, go and help somebody else as well. And they will, the smile that you put on their face, it will come back to you as well. So we don't do it on our own. We do it with each other, and it's a reciprocity, a process, and it's immediate.
I want to actually add to that, because you both absolutely bang on the money there. And I actually, because we did a live with Philip Chan not long ago, and he actually gave me some really good advice. And I've actually put it in my elevator pitch, because that's what I was doing. put in my elevator page for my business. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again to expect a different result.
Yeah. No, so it was Henry Ford who originally said, if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always got. And then Einstein came along, I think about a few years later, about something like 10 years later, and then added that last statement, as you said, you know, if you do the same thing over and over and expect a different result, well, that's insanity. Because Henry Ford said, you're just going to keep getting what you've always got to expect something different. But then we see that with our education system. I've spoken to the education system over here for decades, and I keep getting the same thing. Well, what we've been doing hasn't been working, but we keep doing it. And this came from the head psychologist of New South Wales Education in 2016. And she said to my face, sitting in her office, you know, everything you've said, Alan, is absolutely true. The stats, and we're going backwards. But if we continue doing what we've done, sooner or later, we'll get a different result. And that was our head psychologist. It was scary. I just walked out of there and went, what chance have our kids got?
Exactly. I agree wholeheartedly with that, and it's something that you and I have had many discussions on about, you know, about how do we look at things. And at the moment, you know, we've got the COVID opportunity, and maybe this is a good enough chance to break our society so that we can actually do something about it. Because what has been happening hasn't been working. We've got suicide rates above what they've ever been. We've got so many mental health opportunities that, you know, realistically, we're really reevaluating our life. And I think now more than ever is the time to start having these conversations. Like, I adore speaking to Pauline Crawford-Umps because, you know, she talks about having a magical future. What can we create? What can we do? And now's the time to start having these conversations. Let's look at what we can create rather than what we have created. Because if we change the way we look at things, then we're going to be able to create brand new opportunities of actually creating community groups that are just going to change the world. Like the Campfire Project, for me, and we'll keep going back to it because we're all a part of it, but the difference it's actually made to all of our lives, you know, because it's created a safe place for us to talk about every subject. There's no subject off the table, you know. I'm dreading the day where we actually talk about politics because it'll be a good conversation because it won't actually be about politics. It'll be about how we can actually work together to create a better system to actually take things into the next level. Because at the moment, I'm in Melbourne, I'm in lockdown, and it's, you know, there's a very awkward feeling around here at the minute, and you know, there's some pretty heavy-handed police opportunities, which are probably a little bit overly strong, but the reality is there's a certain percentage of people that aren't supporting the rest of the community. So therefore, we've got to put up with some crap because people will put their own interests in front of everybody else. And until we actually sit down as a society and say, okay, these are our values, this is what we're going to stand for, this is how we're going to move forward, and accept the fact that things won't go right and that things will be hard, then we're not exactly going to be able to move forward. But the only way in which we're going to do it is to actually continually talk about the subjects we don't want to talk about. So,
for a long time, we've been getting all this rhetoric, especially from motivational speakers, and saying that, you know, we deserve everything. We have the right to receive and everything else. We give trophies to every child just for turning up because we don't want one of them to feel that they've missed out. And so we've made everybody tell everyone, or we've told everyone, you're special. You know, the fact is that everybody has the makings inside of them to be special. Their job is to do the work to show that, and our job is to nurture them in a way and so that they can actually do that as well. But to tell everybody that they're special, you know, COVID came along and went, no, you're not. You know, it's the biggest eye-opener for everybody. It's gone worldwide. And I think that's one of the things that came out of COVID, or one of the reasons why it's here, is, well, put it to the, you know, the universe telling us, get over this crap of telling everybody that they're special. Guide them so they can become special. Don't set them up for failure, because all these kids are leaving school told that they're special and everything else. They want to be the managing director of the new company they're working for by lunchtime, and they're expecting, well, and the world goes, sorry, you know, we don't work, the world doesn't work that way. There's going to be hard bumps and everything else. And so we copped COVID in a really big way. So a lot of the issues that we're having today is because of that dribble that we were told before. It's like fake it till you make it. No, the true saying was act as if. When you act as if you're something, like a character actor who studies the part, plays a role of a psychopath, and we go, my God, they're a psychopath when they're on screen. That's because they took that role on. But when you fake it till you make it, you've got no chance of getting there because you know you're a fake. And as long as you keep thinking you're a fake, you'll never get there. But some idiot thought that that was a snappy way to use the term because everyone liked the little term. Everyone's been using it, and it's been slowly eroding away at our society ever since. You've got to be careful about the words we use. And the intention of the people who put those words up in the first place was that was obviously somebody who just wanted to make more money in their business by attracting more people. Sometimes it's going to be tough.
But that right there is the opportunity in society, and it's calling the bullshit because there's too much of it. You can smell it. People don't own their own stories. And then they project their bullshit onto other people instead of actually taking responsibility for what they are doing themselves. It's easier to blame. If we teach people to take responsibility for their opportunities, then that's when suicide, we can talk about it, and it's not going to be as painful because we accept that it is what it is. We find that we go and understand what it's about, and then we take responsibility for it, and it's funny, like I was working with Lisa Jane for a bit, who was another member of the Campfire Project, and we're looking at opportunities and the value set. I'm massive on values. I think values is the key to actually moving forward, because when you're entrenched in your own personal values, then it's very hard to be shaken from those. And then you take responsibility for your actions based upon those values because they're yours. You own them. And the values that we worked on were accept, understand, and respond. Right? And I'm implementing them across everything I'm doing because I think it's the simplest form to actually get an understanding of what's actually going on. It is what it is. Everybody's got their own truth based upon their experiences in life. It's up to them whether or not they fluff the truth or not. But as soon as you accept that that's the story, go and get some more information and learn more about that story. Pick up all that knowledge and then choose an action of responding. Actually do something with the information, because knowledge is not power. Applied knowledge is power.
Exactly.
That's when things become powerful, like, and I know we're here today to talk about suicide prevention and the opportunities inside that. But the reality is, if we actually can accept failure as a lesson and the way in which, like Mick Hawes, another member of the bloody Campfire, and he taught me, the one question that changed me forever is, what's good about this situation? What's the lesson I can learn in this? And it's such a powerful thing, because if you're looking for the lesson, you are always growing. Oscar, you see a lot of Oscar around, he has one job in life. It's to learn. Everything else is negotiable. So we sit down, if there's a problem, what can we learn about this? Well, is that an issue? No, well, we've learned. Cool. Let's apply that knowledge. Let's make sure that we can do something different next time. So that's the opportunities that are out there when we're prepared to listen and talk and understand. Because the other thing, which Alan, you talk a fair bit about, is, am I interested or am I interesting? The moment you become interesting, you're not hearing what other people are saying. That's probably the most important part of anything. And the amount of coaches and good people inside the Campfire, and we love it. Obviously, you love it, Adam. Obviously, you love Alan, and for a reason. It's we're honestly interested in each other's stories. The conversations don't go for 10 minutes; they're an hour for a reason, because we need to get to know each other. It takes time to get to know each other, and that's the problem with our society these days. No one's got the time to actually do that. Right now in Melbourne, everyone's got time. Everyone's got time to pick up the phone. The phone calls are no longer 5 minutes. Hey, mate, but they're half an hour. I want to actually know how you're going. That's what's going to change things. So,
that's it. One of the things, if I just can add to that, is when talking to people, because it's not just a matter, we're going to talk about suicide, but really what we do in the campfire and what I'd like to do in my life is to talk about the solution, not just talk about the problem, but we can talk about the problem all day, every day, and we just anchor ourselves more into the problem. But it's looking at what is the solution and how do we talk, how do we go about that? As Are You Okay Day? If you ask anybody, most people will say, oh, I don't know what to say to somebody. Well, guess what? You don't have to. People talk about you'll have 2 ears and 1 mouth, use them in that proportion. No, you'll have 2 eyes, 2 ears and 1 mouth, and use them in that proportion. We find that most people, because it's uncomfortable, and we hear somebody's got problems, we don't want to feel it ourselves. So it's no longer about them, it's about us. Most people take an average of 17 seconds before they start trying to give advice. That's not even much time to actually do 2 or 3 sentences. 17 seconds. It's only about, 50, 60 words at the best. And you're already jumping in with a solution. It's something that's really affected that person. So it's not a matter of knowing what to say to the person. Just hold the space for them. Yeah. And in that, listen to them. And yes, it's going to be uncomfortable when you hear their story. And why is it uncomfortable? Because it probably reminds you a bit of your uncomfortability as well. But together, they talked about a problem shared as a problem halved. Well, what we see in most problems, especially on Facebook, somebody shares a problem, then somebody else takes it on. Now it's a problem magnified because everybody's talking about the problem and not working on the solution. So unless you can work on the solution, just hold space for that course. And half the time, the person just needs to talk. Once they've talked about it, the energy of the depression, everything else has dropped. So hold that space for them and let them hold the space for you as well. And I think that's the important thing that we need to be doing, not so much trying to tell people what to do, because, hey, I've been around a long time, been through a lot of things. But when I sit down with somebody else and they're talking about their issues, I know nothing. And I sit within that space and I go, right, I'm just here to listen. And half the time, I remember having one guy sitting in the car with me, he vented in a big way about somebody who was, we were doing a project and this other person was his project and they were taking over and all this. And I just turned around and I said, can I ask you another question? Because the first question was, what are you going to do about this? And he went off. So I said, can I ask you a different question? Or another question? He said, yes. And I said, what are you going to do about this? And he then just, because he'd vented and got it out, he was then able to lay it out on the table in a concise process of what he was going to do. And he was a negotiator. I was sitting next to him. And he just went, wasn't that the same question? I went, yes, but I asked it in a different space. Yeah. You vented, you got through that energy. I'm not going to then add to it by making comments that then locks you back into that. I'm just going to sit there and I'm going to ask you a question that gets you now the energy is different. You're not going to be able to tell me the same power and anger as you had before. And so he was therefore closer to the solution. And half the time, that's all it needs. The best conversations, if you're talking to somebody, you ask them a question and they're doing all the talking and they'll go and tell everybody else, that was a great conversation I had with him. It's got nothing to do with you. It's all to do with them. Yeah. Hold the space for them. Just let them talk.
I'm gonna share this as the sun comes up in Melbourne. I'm a bit behind you blokes up north. But I want to. This is something that I absolutely adore, and I'm sorry to go back into this, but I think it's a really cool thing. So I got this conversation between Pooh and Piglet, and it's absolutely brilliant. Today was a difficult day, said Pooh, and there was a pause. Do you want to talk about it? Asked Piglet. No, said Pooh after a bit. No, I don't think I do. That's okay, said Piglet. He came and sat beside his friend. What are you doing? Asked Pooh. Nothing really, said Piglet. Only I know what a difficult days are like. I quite often don't feel like talking about on my difficult days either. But goodness, continued Piglet, difficult days are so much easier when you know you've got someone there for you, and I'll always be here for you, Pooh. And Pooh sat there, working through in his head his difficult day. while the solid, reliable Piglet sat next to him quietly, swinging his legs. He thought that his best friend had never been more right. And it's just so true. You know, you don't have to have the words to say, just sit with somebody. You know, like the words will come.
Did you actually know that from Winnie the Pooh, because I grew up watching it, reading the books. I actually had the full collection, which I've handed down to my kids now. And I actually only knew this last couple of years. So a few characters in there actually have mental health issues.
Okay. Share.
Yeah, like obviously Rabbit, OCD. ER, depression.
Okay.
Another one's got autism. I can't remember which one, but yeah.
Brilliant.
Absolutely brilliant, because if you think about it, that's why it was written that way. It was a mental health story.
Yeah.
But because it's a cartoon thing, we didn't see ourselves in it, and therefore we weren't challenged by it, but we were drawn to it. And we enjoyed it. And as you said, you've enjoyed all of those. You're passing them down to your children because it was disconnected from us, but it was something that we could see ourselves in as well. That's the power of storytelling.
Yes. Oh, it's storytelling. I love it. You know, like, and it's part of Sunday sessions for me is about getting around guys and just sharing stories. And it could be stories from last night, stories from last year, but that's just the power of a story. Has an emotion. I was talking before about being in a room with people and talking, because you actually get the emotions. An action with an emotion creates a memory. Stronger the action, stronger the emotion, stronger the memory. When you're telling stories, you get to feel people's emotions. And that is such an important and powerful thing. You know, so I didn't actually know that about Winnie the Pooh. I'm actually going to go and pick up a few copies and read through it, because I didn't know that, and I think that's fantastic.
But, you know, when you talked about Hee-Haw with depression and everything else, you know, when we've read the books, everybody warms to him. Now, here's somebody who's got depression, and what do we do in real life? We pull away from people who've got depression. But in a story, in a cartoon, we come close to them. Maybe we need to look at life being a bit more like a cartoon when we're dealing with other people.
Or is it the fact that the shame of the label holds us back? Because, and the only reason I say that is because I'm sitting here with two people, Adam and myself, who are owning our own stories, and yet we're losing the stigma on our own mental health, because that's not actually how other people see us. If you can think of yourself as a cartoon character, then you know you're acceptable. But everybody loves that person regardless. People love you. People want to love you as a person. It's us that don't want ourselves loved, you know, and it's I don't know. What a great conversation. I'm sorry. Like, it's actually got me thinking a lot. And I think that's the key to a great conversation, is to actually think outside of what our normal paradigms are, because, it's just, that's where God is.
I've actually just minimised the chat a minute, but obviously I'm still here. I've actually Googled it, all the characters, and I'm actually going to share them with you. Like Winnie the Pooh, impulsive eating disorder, otherwise known as OCD. Piglet, generalized anxiety disorder. EO, depressive disorder. Rabbit is OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. Owl has got dyslexia. Tigger is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, because he's always bouncing. Kanga is social anxiety disorder, because obviously she's very overprotective of her son. Roo autism spectrum disorder. And Christopher Robin, believe it or not, I've actually only just found this out now, schizophrenia.
And guess what? We listen to those and read those, and we love every one of them.
Yes.
Take that into your real life, guys. That's my.
I'm actually going to share it on Facebook. I'm going to share it on Facebook.
Yeah, I want to do that together. I want to get that out, because here's the thing, right? And this is something that I'm becoming a huge believer in. We need to drop the labels.
Yes.
Because not one of those characters had those labels and we all fall in love with them. Because we're labeling ourselves in our own minds. We're not labeling ourselves in other people's eyes. It's actually detrimental to us. So next week, like I'm having a conversation. What does it mean to be gay around the campfire? Because I think it's not an issue. It's only an issue for those. There's some beautiful people coming on that I just can't wait to talk about this, because it's not an issue, and the amount of people, gay men, that commit suicide, or because they're worried about coming out and the pressure of that, if we can remove the pressure, we can, as a society, and allow people, not them, allow human beings to be themselves, then what a beautiful place that is. And I love the African culture where the guys with the mental illness, they're the witch doctors. They're the leaders of their tribes. They're the guys that can see and understand things that we can't. And I've learned that one of the most beautiful experiences is Oscar goes to a school and there's a lot of kids with different opportunities. One of his good mates, I'm not quite sure what his label is, but they chase dinosaurs. How cool is that? And Oscar truly believes that he'll be the first person to bring a dinosaur back, because they can see and imagine and feel and make it real, Yeah,
we're just having this conversation with the parent the other day and talking about children with Asperger's, autism, and other so-called conditions, or whatever title you want to give them. And I go, well, at the same time, most of us are saying, well, we only use 10% of our brain. Wouldn't it be great if we used more of our brain? And I go, well, you want to know what it's like? Sit down with one of these kids or one of these people who have got those conditions, because their brains, I haven't found one of them yet who isn't highly intelligent in one way or another. Everyone on the planet has their own gift. That's what I love about the profiling system that I do. I don't put people in boxes like all those other programs. I take the person out of the box and treat them as an individual, because when you treat them as an individual, you can find their unique gift that nobody else has got. And then you can start talking to them about that, and you make a brilliant connection with them. So all these kids that are so bright, but we label them and we treat them in a different way, as opposed to going, well, what are their gifts? How do we can connect with this? Because they're the ones that will come up with ideas. Temple Grandin has autism. She's a professor. She put herself through all of that. When she was growing up, she used to draw horses, and somebody said, well, why don't you draw them in their natural states, or where you see them in corrals and things like that? She started drawing the corrals and went, the fencing and everything, that's wrong. So she then runs another company besides being a professor, where she designs and builds corrals and everything else for horses. So here's a woman who, as she said, can't spend, if she's going shopping, you get 3 items, don't get 4, because it's set her right off, because there were set procedures and everything else. But her gift as a professor, and also doing this, there's so many things that we've got, and we look at, well, she's got autism. No, she's got a gift in what she's actually been able to achieve with that autism. Yeah. And we start to look at what people are possibly able to do. We take them out of these boxes and labels and look at what's uniquely in them and connect with that. And let's face it, teams are not made from people who are the same as us. Teams are made from people who are totally different to us, because they bring something to the table that we don't have. And they usually like doing the things that we hate doing, and vice versa. So it's great you push that stuff across the table, And they go, thank you for that. And by the way, I don't like doing this. And they push it back, the other stuff back home. Oh, great. That's something I love to do. So it's our differences that really make this a great world. And so we should start looking at every difference and go, right, what is the gift in that difference? How can I learn from that? How can I connect with somebody in that way? Stigmas disappear when you start having that inquisitive mindset. When you've got that fearful mindset, oh, I don't want to be around them because that might be catching, or I might, realize that I've got something like that myself. How many people go to a coach because they go to coach because they want to get better at what they're doing? It might be in business or anything else. This is why I don't want to be the smartest person in the room, because I can't learn if I am. And if I've got, my life was, so many people go to a coach and they go, right, I don't want to look at that, or I ignore that. That doesn't exist, and I'll fight their coach. Well, the reason you went to the coach in the first place is because you wanted to get better. If you've got no issues, then you're just spending and wasting money because you're not going to improve. So I like to know, if I go to a coach, I want to go to them with a whole lot of baggage so that I can get through that baggage and then take a massive leap in my life to a place that I never could have got to before without it. So the more problems I've got as I'm wanting to grow, the better, because then there's more things that I can overcome and become so much better again. So when you start changing that attitude in yourself, you have the same change of attitude to other people, and you start to put the stigmas and everything else aside. It's just total acceptance, because together we can just grow so much more.
Yeah, we do. And with, obviously, I'm going to add on to that, because my son, he's only 8 years old, and he wants to actually learn about mental health now because he's picked up on what I'm doing, which I think is fantastic, because the earlier they learn it, I think the absolute better. And he's accepted he's got autism, but he's not seen it as a label. He's actually seen it as a superpower, which his talent is actually numbers. Now, obviously, he's only been back to school a week, well, less than a week. And he's already done 3 tests in year 4 within those few days. Now, obviously, the first one, after not doing work for a good, 4 months, and because obviously all this lockdown, and the first one, he did a times table, 25 out of 25, no problem. Then it's a spelling one, 8 out of 15, and that's one of his post subjects. Next one is maths, 20 out of 20, no problem. Just like that. And he's only 8 years old.
So where we'll go wrong with the education system is that then we'll just work on his weakness, won't work on his strengths. But when you go out to work, they only employ you for your strengths, they don't employ you for your weaknesses. So, what we should be looking at is, okay, if they're not good in English, do they have enough English to be able to read and write and be able to get by? Then if that's the case, then leave it at that. Where is their strength? And let's work on their strength and help them cultivate that more, because that's the stuff they love to do. That's the stuff that when they go out and they work and they apply that, they're going to be more successful. The company's going to make more money that they work with. They're going to be happier. They're going to go home happier. They're going to have a better relationship with their spouse, and their kids are going to get the flow on of that as well. But we live in a society where we focus on weakness and label a weakness and then hold ourselves back in that process. Let's start looking at where the strengths are in all of these. If somebody is in depression and everything else, it shows that they've really got concern. A lot of men who feel that they're not providing, they're falling behind in what they, our role was originally as a provider. Those men have got depression. See, I always say that weak people don't get depression. It's the strong people who get depression. Why? Because they wanted to do the best thing by their family, and they feel that they're failing. And so the depression builds in. So we should then respect that person and go, right, if they got depression, why did they get depression? Because they really took that responsibility on, that they wanted to look after their family and everything else. And the person should be admired for having that character in the first place, and realize that because they were on their own, that's why they now have the depression. And therefore, I honour that person and go, how can I then support that person? Because of their great character, because we need more people who have that strong character. Therefore, I just give myself and put my, hold that space for them. That's how I can honour the work that they've put into getting into that state of depression in the first place.
Yeah, well, I've been saying for years that for the first step into recovery is admit there's actually a problem there that needs to be resolved. Straight away, they're on the road to recovery.
Mm.
And obviously I was nervous as hell to admit that, but I'm actually glad I've done that now. And now I'm getting others to do the follow suit.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Just ask yourself, when you're going, okay, this is the situation I've got at the moment, ask yourself why you got to that. And I'm looking for the character that was behind it. So if you've got a man who is really depressed and everything else, he feels like he's failed and everything else, go, tell me more about that side of it.
Yeah.
But looking for the positive in it. And when he says that, I'm there for my children, I love my children, that's a positive. I love my wife, there's a positive. I wanted to give them the best, there's a positive. And you look at that and you go, oh, all these things that you've done that show the strength of a person who is compassionate and loving and everything else, these are things you don't want to get rid of. These are what make you a great person. And talk about those things and go, right, okay, because of the situation, you didn't get the result you were looking for. Don't measure yourself by the result, measure yourself by the character that allowed you to get into that position in the first place.
Yeah.
Because if you're a weak person who was running away from all responsibilities and everything else, you never would have got that depression. So admire yourself for the fact that you got there. There is focus on that side of the character. I think it's so important.
Look, I'm loving where your heart's sitting right now, Alan, because there's passion coming out in your voice left, right, and centre. But it's the reality, right? So I myself at the moment, I've been trying to work out exactly who I am and what I'm doing, because I keep putting my front foot forward, and things aren't fitting, things aren't working right, things aren't, and then over the last couple of days, I've gotten a couple of testimonials from people that I've worked with, and they've just blown me away, because my key factor in everything that I do when I'm working with anybody is I don't have an exact process, because you're an individual. I just want to hear what's good about you. I need to sit here and learn you. Once I've learned you, then I can see what's great about you, and I can give that back to you for you to sit and talk about, because that's the important things. At the moment, I made the choice to be a father. I've made the choice. I'm not working for the next 3 weeks because we've got school holidays. My wife is working. We've had no internet for 2 weeks, trying to work from home, trying to get everything going. The tension inside of that is not necessary. I'm worried about Oscar's mental and social health, because I love him with all my heart. So I'm going to focus the next 3 weeks. We're in lockdown. We've got 1 hour outside our house a day for exercise. So we're going to build some billy carts. We're just going to have some fun. I'm going to take it all away. The pressure of society saying that, I'm not a man because I'm not out providing and I'm not doing the bits and pieces. It's bullshit. A man stands there and supports the things he loves. Men innately, in our hearts, we innately protect women and children. When are we going to do that? It's not always about putting financial opportunities in front of everything. It's about giving people the time and effort to grow. The only way you can grow is for somebody to spend time with you, and it's funny, because I've been fighting my own head as, what's right now? What's right now? What's right now? I've got to get a business going. No, I don't. I have to support those I love. I have to be with those that I care for. I can take on X amount of clients and, work with that, but I'm not taking on any more than that, because the people who matter most to me are coming first. So,
that's it.
Yeah.
I always believe work always starts at home.
Yeah. You need to understand your priorities. Once you actually know what your priorities are, you can focus on them, and they change. So it's also important to adjust those priorities to see where things are at. There's different stages of life. Last night on the live, I was talking about, I would love nothing more than to create a part-time workforce for men from when their children get to the age of 5, so that they can do the school pickups. They can do the time. Like, I know for myself, some of the most beautiful time I have with Oscar is the drive to and from school. He and we talk about life, and we talk about the things we're doing, and he gets the shits with me if I'm on the phone. And so he bloody should, because that's our time. You know?
That's it.
So anyway, that's
yeah. You got to, you know, as you said, you got to ask yourself why you're doing everything that you're doing. You know, so many men, you know, we're told that the great Australian dream was to own your own home. That wasn't the great Australian dream. That was a bank's dream, because they make more money out of you. Buy a home that's say $200,000, you'll pay $500,000 or $600,000 to the bank in interest rates, plus that principal back again. So it was their dream. You've got to ask, whose dream was it? You've got men going out, spending, you know, working long hours and that to bring money back to support their family. It's like, I always look at it this way. You'd see the wife and the children inside the house. Where was dad? The extra picture, if you step back from it, he was like Atlas with the world above him. He's got the house on his shoulders, but not seen by everybody because he's outside the house. And so men would work their tails off and die earlier, so to create money that others could enjoy after they were gone. That's where we were going with pushing to move forward all the time. But the man should go, hang on, what was your role? Yours was a protector, was the, you know, with your partner, holding that family together. Well, it was together. And that's why the hashtag we together, everything is together, not separate. And so when the man realizes, hey, I may not be bringing the money in, but I've got that role, and they realize what they're actually contributing to the family. And when the partner also realizes that as well, because we've listened to the magazines, we've listened to all the bloody trivia that's out there, all the people who had their agendas and pushing out products and services out to that we pay for that made them happy. And we've got this miserable life because men are dying early and committing suicide because they think that they're not able, they've failed as a provider. Well, you failed if you haven't stayed connected to your family, if you don't love your children. If you find that being out away from your kids is more important, then you fail. And so COVID has put everybody in that situation where they're at home. You know, if you worked 8 hours and you travelled an hour and a half each way to work, that was 11 hours a day. And with breaks, probably 12 hours a day. Now you're at home, you're still doing the 8 hours work if you're, you know, working remotely, and you've got these extra 3 to 4 hours now for your family that you never had before. We've got this bonus. Yep. And if you start looking at, okay, what's my role in the family? What do I contribute here? Because that's why the Campfire Project started, not only because of my own background and everything else, but because when I talk to men, most men said, well, I said, well, what's the major issue you got? And they're going, I'm confused. And I go, what do you mean you're confused? Confused about what? I don't know my role in the family because I'm not there because I've got to be out making money and everything else. And I don't know my role at work because we've now got all these quotas and everything else. I don't care who I work for. I just want to make sure it's the best person for that job who I'm working for. I don't care if that's male, female, gay, straight, whatever. You know, we should be getting the right person in the job. That's another thing. I'm going off on another tangent, but you see where there's so many things connected. Everything's connected. We've got to start looking and stop looking at one little item and getting wrapped up in that, and then going up and look at another little item over here and getting wrapped up in that. We need to step back from the whole thing and see it all together and go, right, is this thing over here affecting this one over here? Is this adding to confusion to this one over here? And sit down and spend that little bit of time. And while we're doing that, we're out of our own inferiority complex and fears of ourselves. We're looking at the situation, we're getting a better understanding of that, which is actually working away at diminishing what we're holding ourselves back. Because if I was working with somebody who was saying, look, I don't like the way I'm thinking, I go, radio, I'm not going to talk about how you're thinking, but how does that make you feel? And the person goes, oh, it makes me feel like crap. And I go, what's an alternative way of feeling? Tell us about some of the feelings you love. And they were telling me, I love, feeling this way. And I go, when have you felt that before? Because if you can think of something, then you'll have to experience it. You can't think of something you haven't experienced before. And they go, I love doing this. And I go, well, what would you be doing when you're feeling that way? Oh, I might like, walking down the beach. Tell us about that. Are you in the soft sand, the hard sand? Are you in the water? What are you feeling? What are you smelling? You got 5 senses. Use all of them. Describe it to me. Even if you're walking down the beach, what are you tasting? Oh, I'm tasting the salt air. When you get them talking about that, it's funny that their thoughts and your neurology and physiology are always linked. So what you're feeling, your thoughts are going to attach to. All of a sudden, you've got totally new thoughts, and there's no connection to the old thoughts without going back through your feelings. And most people won't do it. I had one guy came to me who had stomach cancer. He said, well, you're going to find out where the cancer came from. I went, yeah, of course we will. Not a problem. 3 months later, seeing the herbalist and reversing his condition, he said to me, you know, but you told me we'd find out. I said, we're pretty much over with the massage. You don't need to do that anymore. You've finished. And he said, because I take it through an NLP process, which is all about that, and then anchor it with the sound, the colour, the aromatherapies and everything else. And he went, but you told me we'd find out where the cancer came. And I said, I lied. And he went, what? I said, if I'd told you initially, you wouldn't have come in, you would have walked out the door again, because that's what you needed to hear. But we didn't work on that. We worked on your old thoughts, how you were feeling with that, how you would prefer to feel with the new thoughts. And I said, if you want to find out, we're going to have to go from the way you're thinking now, back into the feelings, across to the old feelings. And he went, oh, forget it. Yeah. So it's a process of, don't keep concentrating on what you're feeling at the moment or what you're thinking. Stop for a moment, because the things that we really love is when we're feeling great. So just come up with the slightest feeling, one little feeling that you really enjoy, and then stop and think, well, when have I actually felt that way before? What things have I been doing? And then spend a bit of time with all the senses. Who are you with? If I was walking down the beach, am I with somebody? What am I listening to? Is it the music in my head? Is it sound of the water? Whatever. And spend some time with that. And I guarantee your thoughts will align to it very quickly. And all of a sudden your thoughts are changing. That change of those thoughts, every thought creates a chemical reaction. So now you've got a new thought, creating a new chemical reaction that's going through your body, and there's a positive one that's feeding your organs, not destroying them. All of this stuff is connected. It's a simple thing. Yes, it's very simple to explain. It's because we're being programmed into the negative, it takes a little bit of work of doing. But just grab one, spend a bit of time with it. You'll get drawn back again, more than likely. But each time you get drawn back, you'll be able to pull yourself back sooner. You'll be able to spend more time in that positive one until it becomes just the way you do things.
Positive energy produces positive outcomes.
Sorry about going on.
No, it's good, but it's passionate. Here's the thing, right? If we all focus on our passions and we all focus on the things we love and enjoy, we create an energy of enjoyment. We create an energy of positivity. Therefore, that attracts people, that brings more people together. And at the moment, the society's been run on fear, and it's pulled us apart. So we need to look at the way we do that. So, hey, I'm just looking at time, and we have gone over an hour. And I know this is Adam's interview, but who would have thought that we could just keep on talking?
Exactly. But even then, because I know we could be talking for ages here. But obviously, when you get people saying, "Oh, I'm a failure, I'm a failure, I'm a failure," I'm showing fear. What do those words actually mean? Because there's always a meaning for every single word. There's a meaning for every word, like fear, false evidence appearing real. That's fear. Fail, first attempt in learning, which will then give you the next opportunity to change.
You'll notice I never ever say there's problems. I call them opportunities. I say opportunities more than any other word, because I truly believe that everything is an opportunity. It all comes down to the way we see it. And the power of spending time with people is so important. But fear is just something you don't understand.
So if you focus on the fact of winning, or the fear and everything else, then you've got winning and losing. But as you said, Scott, when you focus on the opportunity you can learn out of that, then you're either winning or you're learning. There's no losing in there at all. I was going to say the only time you lose is if you allow yourself to take your life, and not only do you lose, but everybody else around you. There's a lot of people you're connected to, and every one of them lose if you lose your life.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm going to throw something in there which is a bit interesting. For some people, suicide is an option. Okay, and it's not a great option. The only thing I ask of people is to make sure you've got everything squared away, so that then you actually don't leave other people with opportunity. Take the responsibility for it and actually square everything away. Because quite often in that process of squaring everything away, you'll actually understand some new things about you.
You'll understand why you should remain.
Yeah. And that's so I do a fair bit of this, and that is my whole thing. That's okay. If that's the answer, that's the answer. But let's find out how we can best prepare everyone else. Because
it's not just, getting your money sorted out and getting all your records and things like that, but think about the people around that while you're doing it. And then you'll see the value of what you're going to keep if you stay, and the value that everybody's going to lose if you take your life.
Yeah, and I'm massive on that, because it's, and understand that you're just because. So one of the practices in our process is I actually take suicidal men to see my chiropractor, because it's not just between our ears. We actually hold our emotions and our physiology. It runs through the neuro pathways in the body. So if you're feeling like shit, go and get a massage. Actually remove some of the crap out of you, because it is in your physiology. Just get that bit of tension out of you. So, yeah, anyway. So we could just keep talking, can't we? So Adam, how would please take over?
I will. I'm just looking at some quotes now, and just one here. It just says, the person who completes suicide dies once. Those left behind die 1,000 deaths trying to relive those terrible moments and understand why.
Yeah, and I get that, and I get that everybody says that it's like it's a selfish act, but I don't buy into that anymore. I used to believe that was the case, that it's selfish to go and commit suicide. I think the opportunity is the fact that it's more about, if somebody's in that much pain and we haven't noticed that, I think that's a problem.
Yeah.
I think we need to be Piglet. Go and sit with Pooh.
I've actually got one more, and obviously it states, place your hand over your heart. Like, can you feel it? That is called purpose. You're alive for a reason, so don't ever give up.
That's true. Now, on that first one, yes, it's true. If you take your life, you die once, but everybody else dies 1,000 deaths. But the problem is, we're using that quote to put shame on the person to not take their life. So we're trying to shame them and make them feel worse to not take their life. So who made that statement was somebody who had lost somebody and felt the grief and everything else. The focus was taken off the person who took their life. Yes, be aware that if you take your life, there's a lot of other people that are going to go through that pain over and over again. But just be aware of that. But don't take the shame of it on top of what you're already carrying, because that'll make you even worse again.
Yeah.
That's
where you need to separate the two.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very much so. And I'm big on that, because it's part of every opportunity that I go into. It's about removing the shame, because there is no shame. That's it. It's, and if you know somebody that has committed suicide, take that as one of the strongest and most powerful reasons for you owning your shit. Because they were paid the ultimate price for not being able to own theirs. at least give them the gift and honor yourself enough to sort you out.
Mm.
Absolutely.
That's it. So if you realise that so many people are going to miss you if you go, that they're going to feel that, then just realise from that, there's a hell of a lot of people who love you. So you're not on your own. And the way to make sure that you connect with those people, if you're feeling the pressures, go and talk to people. Let them know that you're not feeling right, but pick the right ones who are not going to try and tell you you're wrong and try and fix it because they feel uncomfortable, but find those that can honour and respect your space and hold it for you. And for everybody else who's out there is looking at people who may be going through the stuff, and just remember, hold the space. Be there for the other person and realise that there is no right or wrong. There is no good or bad in any of this. It's not a judgment. That person is going through stuff. And if you're a decent person, then what you do is we just hold the space for the other person, because that's what decency is about.
Absolutely.
No stigma.
You know what? We have been talking for, coming up to an hour and a half now. So, yeah, know what? I thought this is going to be an awesome chat. And it is. Yeah. It really has.
Oh, I just want to throw something in, if that's right, Adam. And I know this is really, because this is important to me.
Mm-hmm.
Take the time to know people. It is the best gift you will give them, but also yourself.
Yes. Mm.
Because you fill yourself with their story and you get to know people.
Mm.
The greatest gift I have in me, and I implement it in everything I do, is I get to know people. Because that's the gift.
Yeah,
that is the true gift.
And just remember, you cannot give without receiving.
Yeah.
It's just cause and effect. You give to somebody, you will receive at the same time as well. It's not a matter of, well, if I give to them, they'll give to me later on. No, you receive at the same time that you give. That's why we give.
Yeah.
So if you want to feel good, go and spend some time with somebody who's not feeling good, hold their space and allow them to get some of your, that good feeling that you're having. And you'll be able to realise that you'll actually magnify your own good feelings then, because you'll know you've done something of value.
Absolutely. And obviously, don't make my mistake of keeping all those challenges and pain bottled up. So I did that for 21 years and it drove me to rock bottom. Best thing I ever did was talk.
I'm going to pull you up there. I'm really sorry, Adam. It wasn't a mistake. You couldn't possibly be doing what you're doing now if you didn't experience those emotions and those feelings. It's driven you to actually want to do something about it. There's no mistake in anything you've done in your life. It's all an opportunity.
Well, everything's
taken what was shit and made it better.
Yeah. Everything you've done has brought you to where you are today. And if you like who you are today, then, everything was okay. As I say, there's no right or wrong. It's just the pathways that we take. And as you said, put your hand on your heart. You'll find your purpose. Because your purpose is your heart.
Yeah.
What drives
I love my bloody life. I love it.
And even when you don't, that's okay too.
Oh yeah.
It's about recognizing when you don't and just taking the foot off the accelerator. Take the pressure off yourself.
You know what? Like obviously before you came on, Scott, me and Alan were talking, and you know what? Because this is my first stream in over 2 weeks, because of those 2 weeks I did nothing but self-care. And you know what? I've not done that much self-care in literally ever. So, wow, I cannot recommend self-care enough. Whether it's walking, listening to music, meditation.
I know. I'll keep going time. But there's one I did 156 Ks in 3 days, right? And I'm a road runner, and I've never run on a treadmill, and it destroyed my shins. And one of the things, it was a great analogy for life. I hop on the treadmill, just trying to do the right thing, build spirits up inside my community. I love running. I can't do it on the road. I'm not allowed out on the streets. So I thought I'd borrow a treadmill and give it a go. This thing kept pulling me. pulling me in one direction, pulling me in one direction. I got to 156 kilometers on this thing, or 146 on the treadmill, and I stopped. Life will continually pull you in one direction until you choose to stop. I looked at the consequences. I looked at what was happening. I was doing it. Why? There's no necessarily big reason to do it other than I wanted to achieve it, to help my community, to get around everybody, give people something to talk about, give something for people to focus on. There's no point doing that if it destroys you.
Yeah. You know what, lads?
And that's the key for me. You have the choice to stop. And actually, and here's somebody that talks about all this stuff all the time. I had to experience it. It's the first time in my life I actually went, you know what? The damage this will do will outweigh what I'm actually trying to achieve. It's okay to say no.
That's
sorry.
You know what, lads? Thanks for coming on. Really, thank you. Thank you.
Right, look, there's a few more hours in our day. There's about 5 minutes left in Adam's, so
6 minutes actually. 6
minutes. 6 minutes.
Not a worry. Okay. Well, it's been great catching up with everyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really has. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Anytime. I'll wait for the next one.
See you all later on.
All right.
In a bit.
Ciao.